Thank you so much, Ayub. And let's just put things into perspective by looking at the numbers of how things have changed since September last year and today. 13th of September 2022, a day like today a year ago, petrol was retailing at 159 shillings 12 cents. Of course, this was after a subsidy had been given by the administration then. But now, the following day, the price of petrol changed, and now it's retailing at 194 shillings 68 cents in Nairobi. Diesel was retailing at 140 shillings in September of last year. Now it is 179.67 cents. Kerosene was retailing at 127.94 cents. It's now 169 shillings 48 cents. If you are to focus on something else about the cost of living, this is what the government has done. It scrapped the subsidies, the failed subsidies that were at that time, and now there's something that has been introduced. The president says it is not a subsidy. It is a price stabilization which has been introduced. It is between 3 shillings 59 cents and 7 shillings 33 cents. Of course, 7 shillings being for petrol, it should have been retailing at about 202 shillings without that price stabilization. But if you have to look at the foods that Kenyans consume, bread was retailing at, no, this is not the accurate figure. It was the bar of soap of 800. This should actually be sugar. Sugar was supposed to be 316 shillings last year. It is now between 420 shillings and 500 shillings. Some shops will find it at a higher price. If you are to talk about maize flour, it was retailing at 200 shillings plus. It is now between 170 shillings and 200 shillings, depending on the shop that you buy. But this is the packet unga. If you are to talk about something like cooking oil, at that time it was 450 shillings per liter of cooking oil. It is now 340 shillings. Has been a decline, but along the way, there's a time that it had spiked, but now it's settling down and getting back to that point. For something like, this should be what? Bread. It was retailing at 55 shillings. At that time, it is now retailing at 64 shillings. And of course, different prices for different commodities. But I want us now to subject this to the Cabinet Secretaries who are here in studio. And just to introduce that Nahumicha Wafula, the Cabinet Secretary for Health, has now joined us. Good evening. And we'll be talking to you. But let's begin with you, Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria, as far as the cost of living is concerned, because this was one of the biggest promises that was made by the campaign of William Ruto before he became president. In fact, the promise was that that would be one of the issues to be focused on. There has been a bit of change, but not necessarily where people would want to see it, especially if you have to talk about the cost of fuel and cost of food and other commodities. What would be your response in terms of the action, and what should Kenyans wait to see happening in the coming months?
I like this question, Sam, but I wish your figures are factual. And you know, you pride yourself that your TV is the most watched in the country. So don't forget there's somebody who is watching you from a supermarket. So be careful.
What is the figure that you have a question about?
Let's take cooking oil, for example.
Right.
It's much lower than what you project there, and Kenyans know that. Yes, you've said correctly that the price has come down, but it's not even to the level you have said. It is by 50% since we came to government.
So our figure is an estimate of 340.
No, it's much lower
liter.
than that.
What is your figure?
It's much lower than that. It's in the region of 230, 240 shillings.
230 shillings a liter?
Yeah, a liter of edible oil. And I'm sure there are some Kenyans who are watching you from a supermarket. So, everyone can be entitled to their own opinion, but not everyone can be entitled to their own facts. Facts are universal. I want us to also look at the issue of sugar. Ask you, maybe before this program is over, make some few calls. I suggest you call some supermarkets here in Nairobi, up country, in the shops.
So at the moment, we're giving a range of between 420 shillings to 500 shillings plus for a 2 kilogram pack of sugar.
2 kilogram pack.
What is the price according to you?
Well, I'm just saying, let us reconfirm that. I know for sure that edible oil is much, much lower than that. But anyway, I digress. I'm just asking you, because I've seen you inciting Kenyans.
No.
I've seen you inciting Kenyans by the panel.
If indeed you question the figures,
I've seen, let me just put it this way.
It is good for you to give us
the problem with you, and that is why you are Azimio roast. That's why you are Azimio roast.
That is what you're talking about.
Sam, let's put it this way. I laugh. You never learn. You never learn. The same way you are falsifying facts last year with your Azimio is the same way you are falsifying it now. The same way you had skewed panels during that time is the same way you have skewed panel now. The same way you are using fake opinion polls that time that tell you that Azimio was winning is what I've seen in that panel now. Anyway, let's get back to the facts. Let me start with fuel. Now, on the issue of fuel, we have something called PDL, Petroleum Development Levy. The purpose of this PDL is what we call making hay when the sun shines. That let me accumulate some money as a buffer so that when the global dynamics are not in my favor, then I can be able to use that to cushion the consumer. That money was deducted from the consumer. Where did you want it to go? The right thing is, after you accumulate it, you tell them, Mr. Consumer, Mr. Motorist, Mr. Passenger, I have now accumulated so much money because you are the one who gave me this money. It is only right and fair that I give this money back to you. You know, so then you guys go all over saying it's a subsidy. It is not a subsidy. This money, we saved it from every liter of petrol to go to some kitty as a safeguard so that now when the situation is not very favorable, we don't have our own crude oil, we don't produce oil, then that goes back there. Number two, because of the situation in the U.S., whereby inflation in the U.S. is at the highest. You know, you look at the interest rate, 5% interest rate in the U.S. market is never heard of. The whole world is suffering because of the actions of the U.S. You know what they did during COVID? They printed money. And you know what we are doing? We are all paying for that. You've had everyone. You've had President Ruto. You've had Antonio Gutierrez, who is not a member of Kenya Kwanza, talk about this unfair, practice by the U.S. and by the, global north that we in the south are suffering like that. So is this Antonio Gutierrez at one? So is this all those people who are talking about all these things?
Did you know this during the campaigns?
Sorry, say that again.
Did you know this about during the campaigns about what the U.S. had done?
No, they had not done it that particular time. Since this year only, my friend, just go to the U.S. and look at the interest rate on what has happened in the interest rate. We've been talking about, I don't know where you guys have been, we've been talking about the unfair financial system in the world. Antonio Guterres was here. Japanese Prime Minister was here. We've talked about it all the time and saying, look, it is not fair to expect the global south to continue paying for the unfair practices of the north. And all these things that you mentioned, the whole thing of a fair financial system in the world is coming here, as it is in Uganda, as it is in all these countries. But you know what? What worries me is that when I talk to the actual people, and I think Dean Nyoro has mentioned this, when I talked to the people who voted for us, overwhelmingly, how come they get this more than you guys who claim to be educated? How come these farmers, I was in Transo here last week, how come these farmers get it? How come they are telling me they are taking selfies in their maize plantations? The actual people who voted for us. But because of snake oil salesmen in Royal Media and in all these other places, you continue getting, I have never seen, I've never seen people who are more consistent than Royal Media. You are consistent at getting it wrong.
Just hold on. We're just starting the conversation, and it would be important that we focus on facts. I have told you that the price of unga was 200 shillings plus September 2022. Today, it is a range of between 170 shillings to 200 shillings. Is that an Azimio figure, or is the reality in the market? But also, what do you explain to Kenyans?
No,
even if there's a bumper harvest, the price of a packet of food has not come down.
I think some, because you're talking about facts, and facts are stubborn, you say it was 200 and
shillings plus, yes.
200 plus, it was 220.
Yes.
250. Add the subsidy, because that was after subsidy.
No, that was after the subsidy had expired.
No, that was after the consumer subsidy.
The subsidy had expired in August.
No, let's have a subsidy. Let us put a subsidy of like 20 shillings there. So the actual price, the real price, because it was still subsidy was coming from the pockets of Kenyans, was somewhere in the region of 270 shillings, down to 170. Before the harvest, we have not put consumer
Let us talk about the facts. The subsidy had expired in August. I'm talking about the price 13th of September 2022.
Granted, can you imagine it has fallen without the subsidy. Granted, it has fallen when we were not harvested. Granted, it has fallen when there has been, the worst drought in the country. It has fallen. Don't you think we deserve a medal?
Waziri, allow me to chime in.
Mheshimiwa, ningependa sana uchangie kwa sababu najua swala hili liko karibu sana.